Oh, beautiful gold rush with your sparkling top prize, you surely are a sight for sore eyes. And jackpot slots with your chance of $75,000 winners. Oh, how I'd take you for a candlelight dinner.
Sounds like people are really loving the new February instant games from the Tennessee Lottery. Play today for your chance to win up to $5 million, only from the Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
You dream of a career with better pay, benefits, and hours, but you're not sure about going back to school full-time. At Miller Mock College, we can help. We offer programs that are affordable and flexible to fit into your busy life. Most can be completed in less than 2 years. See what Miller Mock College can offer. Visit our campus at 6397 Lee Highway, Suite 100 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or learn more online at miller-motte.edu.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to our podcast. This is I Compete, Building Your Empire with John Hewitt, live from the castle. Hi, I'm Roberta Barrett. I'm John Hewitt's producer. You might be asking, who is John Hewitt? Well, he is the Hewitt in Jackson Hewitt Tax Services. If you want to find out more about John Hewitt and what he's currently doing, go to loyaltybrands.com. That's loyaltybrands.com, or find John T. Hewitt on LinkedIn or Facebook. John Hewitt's made over 1,000 millionaires, and you could be the next one. Here is your host, John Hewitt.
Thank you, Roberta. Donna, tell me about your career so far, starting from the time you got out of school.
Well, I worked in hospitality when I got out of school for many years, and then through that created relationship liquor beverage industry and started my own marketing and promotional company, which grew to cover the entire Northeast.
Where were you in the country when you did that?
In Massachusetts.
Okay. So how old were you when you started your first company?
When I started my first company, I was in my late 20s.
Did self-employment run in your family?
No, it did not. No, my mother wanted me to be a 9-to-5 person. No, not at all. I don't know what happened, but that was my direction.
So you're more of a risk taker than your parents?
I am much more of a risk taker than my parents. I started that business. I was very involved in real estate, buying and selling homes as investment, and then subsequently started another business, which is Zoomin Groomin.
So your first business, what possessed you? I mean, did friends talk to you? Did you have a gut feeling? I mean, what convinced you to leave the security that your parents had had in their lives and go for the gusto?
I just wanted more. I wanted to do something more. I can't be that person that operates within boundaries. I needed to explore. And the more risks I took, the more the people around me encouraged me to go further. And with that encouragement, I was able to, live the life I wanted to live.
So in the box doesn't apply to you. You're always out of the box.
It does not.
So
I think I am.
So before you started your first business, what was your job?
Before I started my first business, I tended bar for 4- and 5-star restaurants.
Okay.
I worked, high-end functions. I worked on yachts. My friends would follow me wherever I went to work. And it was just a great network, a great time of making a lot of, unlimited money, whatever I wanted to make. So, yeah.
And so you started a business unrelated to that?
Well, it wasn't unrelated because through that work, I created a lot of relationships within the liquor beverage industry. And I had a marketing background. So one thing led to another, and they would ask me to work events for them. And then they would ask me to staff events for them. And eventually I just said, I need to start my own business. And I was encouraged to do so. And when I did that in Massachusetts, with a handful of spokesmodels, I grew to have 350 staff members regionally. So up and down the East Coast, covering primarily the Northeast.
Were they employees or contractors?
They were self-contractors.
And you said they encouraged you. They asked you to do things. Who is the they you're talking about?
They would be the relationships, the people that I created relationships with, and I worked with large national and international brands. Diageo was one of my biggest clients. You know, I had the Budweiser girls out there, the Coors Light cans out there in parades. We did Jose Cuervo bus tours up and down the East Coast, all of the ski mountains. I staffed for Bailey's and Stoli, and it's just unlimited. I worked with Moet and Chandon. I mean, I did the finest wine events, again, down to volleyball tournaments.
And who were the buyers? Who was buying your beverages?
The consumers. Consumers were buying our products. So we were marketing it on behalf of the suppliers out to the consumers in all formats that existed at that time.
So it was business to consumer. You went straight to the consumer. You didn't have a middleman. You didn't go to 7-Eleven or a grocery store, or you just sold to consumers.
Correct. So we didn't actually sell. We were just marketing on behalf of that to encourage them to go in and, you know, their local neighborhood and purchase this because it's a great brand. But, you know, that's guerrilla marketing at its finest.
So draw us at least a more clear picture for me. What city did you start in Massachusetts?
We started in Boston.
Okay. So now you started first day, you had some connections. And
Correct.
So how did you get consumers, and what type of marketing did you do?
Well, we did mostly event marketing. Either we would create a marketing plan, you know, within a certain budget for a supplier, or they already had their plan in place. It included, you know, handing out materials, all kinds of consumer touches that we would do. The web didn't really exist then. So, you know, social media wasn't a big part of it. You know, that was just starting to evolve at that time. So it was more, direct to consumer, reinforcing the brand and following through with our demographics after the event. So a lot of analytics would come just, you know, manually.
So what year was that approximately that you started?
Oh, that was, I would say, 97 through 2003 or 4.
Did you ever do the Boston Marathon?
No, I did not, but I did do the South Boston St. Patrick's Day Parade.
So you began to hire employees. How quickly did you hire your first employee?
Oh, immediately. I had contacts that were asking, you know, for this type of work. These suppliers have unlimited budgets. It pays very well for anyone working, you know, within that industry. So a lot of people wanted this opportunity, and they also saw any involvement as a stepping stone to larger jobs within the industry.
And how quickly did you start outside of Boston?
Very quickly. Very quickly. Once you prove that you're doing the best job for them, they just start handing you more and more and asking you to, you know, go beyond the existing parameters.
So how big did your territory end up being when you got to your peak?
The entire Northeast. So we were down to New Jersey. We were up in Maine and New Hampshire. We were all through Rhode Island and New York, upstate New York as well, where the college areas are in Syracuse. So really all over the Northeast.
And you said you got up to 350 employees / independent contractor. Now, who managed these 350? You didn't manage 350 people, right?
No. So I had a full-time manager that worked alongside me. And then regionally, we would put leads in place so that they would take on a little bit more responsibility and, you know, overseeing a small area so that we had a great network and a tiered management system.
And how did you get out of that business?
I sold it to my full-time manager. Eventually, I was a mom at the time. My daughter was young, and to maintain these relationships, you need to be out there, you know, at these events and networking constantly. And my life was changing. So my full-time manager was a little bit younger, and she was ready to take over. So I sold it to her. And then I was a mom for a few years after that.
And what year was that you sold it?
I want to say 2004, 2005,
Okay.
right around there.
And you were focused on your family for a while after that?
I was.
Until what year?
Actually, it must have been 2003 that I sold that, because by 2000, I took about a year and a half to just focus on my family and have some downtime. And that's when I started Zoomin Groomin in 2004.
And how did you get the idea for Zoomin Groomin? I'm not that much of an expert in pets, but was that a novel concept in 2004?
It was on the East Coast. Throughout all of this time, I had 3 big dogs that were part of our family. And a good friend of mine out on the West Coast called me one day to say, Donna, you love your dogs. There's vans out here driving around offering this service. You have to check this business out. So I did, and realized on the East Coast it did not exist other than a handful of mom and pop. So I did some research and put a lot of thought into this and launched Zoomin Groomin with just one van in Massachusetts. Our marketing was so great at the time that we started to receive inquiries for service from all over New England, because that's how necessary this service was.
Were there storefront groomers at the time?
There were storefront groomers at the time. When we launched, within 2 years, I had 4 vans on the road. And by then, anytime we launched a new van, we would see mom and pop shops close, as well as an independent owner who had an old RV who was trying to do mobile would also close. So yes, and that continues today when we launch in an area.
You said close. Does that mean they failed in competing with you?
They did.
So what are the advantages between offering a mobile service versus a storefront? Why does a consumer pick a mobile van versus taking their dog into a storefront? Convenience,
number one. When you have multiple pets, it's very difficult to get them all into the car and over to the groomer. If you're a senior, it can be difficult to transport your pet. If you have senior pets, they could have sore hips or find it difficult to jump up and down. So it's difficult to transport them. Dual income families who just don't have the time. And stay-at-home moms with several children, it's tough to manage that. Children and pets all in the car at the same time. And when you deliver your pet, you never know where they're going. Or they disappear down in a basement or a back room somewhere. You don't see them. You have to pick them up at the end of the day. They're there all day. They're in cages. Other dogs are barking around them. They have hot dryers on them. So it's just not the best environment. So I could go on, but those are the most important reasons why.
Yeah, I can't imagine with a couple little kids. Let's say you had 2 kids under 5 and a couple dogs, and trying to take them all into the storefront. That seems like a struggle. Tell me what they do with the van to make it special that they can do grooming anywhere.
Right. So our vans go to the customer's house. They don't leave their driveway. Everything is done in a climate-controlled environment. The vans are self-contained. They have their own power source and water source. And the dog can see out the window and know that it's on its own turf. And the homeowner can look in the window and see that the dog is comfortable for the amount of time it takes for the pet to be groomed. They are then just returned right to their front door. It's one-on-one with the groomer. There are no cages. It's hand drying in that we use a forced dryer, but it is cool air. It's just so much more gentler and peaceful for both the pet and the groomer.
Do any of the owners stay near their pet, or do they just typically go back in the house?
They typically go back in the house. Sometimes they'll just say, I'm going to run to the store. How long will you be? I'll be back before you're done. So it allows them to do other things as well while their dog is being groomed.
And how did the fees that a mobile van charge versus the storefronts, are they comparable?
Well, we're a premium service, so we are a little bit higher because we're a convenience. And so far, our customers are willing to pay that. We don't need to discount. They just are happy that we're coming to them, making their life easier, making their pet's experience more peaceful.
At one time, I had a barber that came to my house to do my hair. and paid a premium because I didn't have to go anywhere. That's special. So when did you begin franchising?
Began franchising at the end of 2005.
Very quickly. So why did you decide to franchise?
We had unsolicited inquiries from people who wanted to start this business. And my attorney was a franchise attorney. So he was well versed in how to start that process. And one thing led to another.
Did you wrap your vans initially, or did that come with time?
At that time, van wraps were just becoming a thing. You could still have your van detailed and painted or other ways to put your brand on the van. And that's what we did. We had the decals put on, the whole van was covered. It just wasn't a full wrap.
And how much of your customers came in as a result of seeing the van and the phone number and the address or whatever you had on the van?
Yeah. I would say about 75% of our customers come from seeing the van. It's unbelievable. Driving down the road, they're taking pictures so they can just call the number when they get home. Other people are calling while they're driving. We park it strategically. We're not in use in a public area because it gains so much attention. And people are now familiar with what the service is. So the minute they see it today, they chase you down, to get that contact information and call you.
Did you ever or very often have relationships with apartment complexes or condominiums and go into the parking lots of farmers market or things of that nature?
Over and over. We have some outdoor high-end shopping malls that would ask us to be there every Saturday because so many of the consumers would arrive with a dog and leave their dog in the car. And so this at least gave them something else to do with their pet while they shopped. We have so many pet-friendly condo communities that want us to service their customers. It makes it so much easier, and it's a benefit, for them to be able to offer that we can come there. There are senior communities, so we'll offer a little bit of a discount, and it's so much easier for us to park there, and the seniors can bring their pets right out their front door. We've had the Ritz call us for some of their long-term guests, and we always make sure that the van is spotless. Some of these places we need to send 2 vans to because there's just that much participation.
Is there any seasonality to the industry?
There is not. It's funny because we always thought, January will be quiet, after the holidays, everybody spends money and gets their dogs groomed in November and December to look pretty for guests. But January is equally busy as July. So there is no downtime with this business. So
you grew to 4 vans. And do you know how many customers you had into your database at that time, approximately?
When one van is at capacity, we have about 2,000 to 2,500 pet customers, and that's the equivalent to human customers, about 450. So we would have had thousands and thousands of pet customers, but approximately 2,500 human customers.
So how many grooms a week could a van do on average?
So daily, a van can accommodate 8 to 10 appointments, working 10 to 12 hours a day, which is how our current franchisees operate, up to 7 days a week.
And do you know how to groom dog?
I do not. I do not. I can help. I've been in the field as much as anyone, helping the groomers and, meeting and greeting the customers, but I still have my dogs groomed. I do not groom them.
And there's other services you provide besides the grooming, right? What other services do you offer?
Correct. So there's traditional bathing, which is the most important, to remove the dead hair, dirt, and dander from the pet. And with that, we always trim their nails, clean out their ears, we spritz their teeth with an enzymatic cleanser. Above that, we offer all sorts of trim levels if a dog needs a haircut. And then from time to time, our locations can offer ancillary services such as pet sitting and dog walk.
And typically, how far in advance were you booked? If a customer called up today on September 23rd, how far out would you have to schedule their appointment?
With an established area, month. And with a new area, because we did just launch a new area in Virginia Beach, she was booked out almost a month in advance.
And how long did it take her to get booked out a month in advance?
Just 2 weeks. 2 weeks in business, she was booked out almost a month in advance. But with an established area in January, you can pull up September, and half of your September is already full because our customers are lifetime repeat customers. About 85% of them use our service every 6 to 8 weeks throughout the year. So they're either rebooking on the spot or they're booked out through the whole year so that they can feel confident they have their appointment set for them.
How far in advance would you have to be booked before you recommended to a franchisee to add another van?
I would say by 9 months, you're probably ready to add another van.
If I'm not fully booked and for the next month, I only have 2/3 of my schedule full, obviously I don't need another van. But if I'm booked, the wait is some period of time before I can get someone in. So it's September 23rd and I can't get anyone in until Thanksgiving. Well, is there some period of time that you begin to understand that you need another van because the customers are there waiting for you?
Okay, good question. So there are pockets of time that you might be booked out a month in advance and then you're not. When you see that happen consistently, when you are consistently week after week, month after month, booked out 2 to 4 weeks in advance, you need to add another van because what will happen is you won't be able to take any new customers. You can only accommodate a certain amount of customers who are repeat, and then that van can't accept anymore.
How many days a week do you recommend that the van be on the road?
6 or 7 days a week. 6 at the minimum, and 7 if you want to. The business is there for 7. Currently, our franchisees operate 7 days a week.
Are the vans able to be leased, or do you have to pay cash for a van?
They are able to be leased, and they can be financed traditionally through a third party, and we have relationships with some of the dealers, so our clients are able to get discounts.
So if I can lease a van, what's the total startup for the franchise? Total cash all in, assuming that I can get a decent lease on the van.
It's just about $50,000. So franchise fee, startup marketing, everything you need to do to get started, you're right around $50,000. And then you have your van as a separate piece, which you can get in with as little as $0 down. You can pay cash for it, and any scenario in between, depending on your personal situation.
If I decided today that I wanted to do this and we agreed that I could be a franchisee in Zoomin Groomin, approximately how long would it take for me to get up and ready for my first grooming trip?
Anywhere from 60 to 120 days, and that just depends on the timeline for the van to be built out. Right now we have them in the queue, so it's very quick.
So how do you hire groomers? You weren't the one doing the grooming. How did you find groomers?
Yeah, same method that you find any staff member, but we do always explain that for us, your first hire, your first groomer is like hiring the master chef in your restaurant. So that one person needs to be very qualified, experienced, great customer service skills, and willing to take on a little bit more responsibility. We always look back to our very first hire, Mary, and if we had not hired her, we wouldn't have known what we were doing. So your groomers are very important. And traditional methods. We have pet industry specific portals where you can advertise, as well as LinkedIn, Indeed, the standard platforms.
Awesome. Well, Donna Shehee, the time flew by. It's been a great half hour. Thank you for your time and best of luck out there. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. All right. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to learn about how to build your empire with John Hewitt. Find John on LinkedIn at John T. Hewitt or message John Hewitt on Facebook. This is I Compete, live from the castle, building your empire with John Hewitt. Don't miss new episodes every Monday by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, cpnshows.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, this was I Compete, building your empire with John Hewitt.
The journey to earning your degree as an adult can seem daunting. It's a path paved with uncertainty, but every great accomplishment starts with a single step. At Bethel University, we know this path well, so take that first step and let Bethel University be the catalyst that propels you toward a brighter future. Bethel University, where we belong and become. The journey to earning your degree as an adult can seem daunting. It's a path paved with uncertainty, but every great accomplishment starts with a single step. At Bethel University, we know this path well, so take that first step and let Bethel University be the catalyst that propels you toward a brighter future. Bethel University, where we belong and become.